So here we have some bracing that goes up in the trusses, and it's to take all the lateral loads from this big great room here. These are trying to push sideways, these big rafters are trying to push sideways, and it's to take all of that load and transfer it up into the plane of this roof, which is a shear plane. We shear nailed the crap out of it. And so we have at about a 45-degree angle, you know, starting with just a little bitty piece here, and that was just straight across, but and going up into the trusses here, into the second, the third, the fourth, and maybe even the fifth truss. And how these work is on one side, they're basically right at the bottom of that 2x12 rim joist there. And on the other side, they've got kind of a double cut on it. They sit straight against that 2x4 top chord of the truss, and then they're double miter cut to fit to the sheeting up there. And I put some shims on that one because I screwed that one up and it wasn't fitting right, but hopefully we don't have to do shims very often or at all. So what I did is I ran a string line just from the point there. I used a square to try to get the string going square out, and then I ran it to the bottom of that truss cord there to get a measurement. And then I also held a speed square right here to get the angle. And then I just used that angle to get angle on the bottom, angle on the top, and then that back cut of that angle, then just pitch to the 612 pitch, which is 26 degrees. So you miter it over 26 degrees on the saw and then twist it to that angle, and you can chop that angle up there. And then the distance measurement is just from the bottom of that truss cord there all the way down to that bottom point there. And that's how you make these. And then if they're over 5.5 feet long, I believe, the details are above this video on the sheet. There's supposed to be a T, like a flag on the top of it. So you put a flatwise 2x6 along the top. And that was discussed with the engineer after I install these. So we're gonna have to go back and put a T on all of these that are over, I think, 5.5 feet long. Some of them are gonna be a little tricky because they go right against the truss. Maybe we can put it on the bottom of that member. But yeah, all those need that. And then we need to have at least 2 empty spaces, which is all we really had space for here. And then we need to make a flagged one coming down from there all the way down to the bottom here. And we need to block it for at least 2 full truss spaces. So we'll nail blocking there, and there on that top plate to basically transfer those forces from the great room up to the shear plane of the roof, across and back down to these shear walls. So we need one on this shear wall and then one on the other shear wall. And I think maybe I only cut one so far, but yeah, and then I believe we have blocking up there. You can reference the drawing above this video to see if we have blocking from that one coming across. So yeah, basically we're taking the load from the great room, putting it up into the roof, and then taking it back down out of the roof into the shear wall. And it's the same detail on this side over here with these 2 shear walls, the shear wall by the stairs and the shear wall over here. We'll have 2 more of those coming down to deliver the shear load as best we can back down. Although that's gonna be a little tricky, because by the time we get the shear load up to the trusses, we're probably gonna be almost out of this wall here. So I guess just bring that shear load up into the trusses, and then we'll have to ask the engineer how we're gonna bring that back down. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions on that.